It's never been a secret that the Republicans are not the most popular party in the United States. The higher voter turnout is, that is to say, the more people who do get out and vote, the less likely it is that a Republican wins the presidency. The lower turnout is, the higher the chances are a Republican wins. This is because for how much smaller the Republican contingent of our society is, they're far more politically motivated and vote at, I think, like a rate of like 80 to 90% in every election, especially since Trump came into the picture the last few. With that in mind, the Republicans know it's in their best interest to reduce the amount of people that vote. That any amount of roadblocks they put in the way to make it harder for Americans to vote, their supporters will jump through all of them to make sure it is possible for them to cast their vote for their Republican representative. It is a part of their lifestyle to vote red and own the libs, right? But for your average person, who is likely to lean Democrat if they vote, putting hurdles in their way to making it easy and quick to vote basically guarantees that the vast majority of them just won't bother. It's not a matter of they can't, it's just a matter of, oh, did you make it, like, a little bit harder to do it? Yeah, that basically goes over the line of effort that I'm willing to put in to do it. I kind of cared about voting, now I'm just not going to do it. Like, that's basically how a lot of Americans operate when it comes to the idea of voting being made harder. It's why when mail-in ballots were available, people knew about them. It was like, oh shit, you can vote from home ahead of time? Yeah, why don't I just do that? I don't want to wait in line and go like through the whole process, go to the booth and vote that way. I'd rather just do it by mail. And now a lot of people are doing it by mail since it became widely known that was an option. Most people who are not Republican will not vote if it's not sufficiently convenient to do so. And with that in mind, and I should mention, there is for some reason a higher rate of not participating in the electoral system if it's just made too inconvenient if you are non-white. I assume the reason for this is the fact that if you're non-white in America, you probably have less financial stability than if you are white, statistically speaking. And so there's a chance that maybe it's like, okay, well, voting got made harder and less convenient. My life's too busy already. I'm just not going to bother, right? And so there has been a lot of data that suggests that implementing voter ID laws and other methods designed to make it harder to vote also reduces the chances of non-white people voting, which is very good for the Republicans, considering the rate at which non-white people support the Republican Party, right? They don't want anyone but white people voting, ideally. Just white men would be ideal for them. And so, the Republican Party has long been a supporter of voter ID laws. Now, the idea of voter ID laws is kind of a misnomer, because the name of it is meant to sound blatantly unobjectionable, right? Voter ID. It doesn't really sound like a big deal, right? Like, okay, yeah, we want our elections to be fair and secure and there to be no cheating or fudging of numbers, right? So why not have, like, an identification that's specially designated to verify you as valid, as valid to vote? Well, that already kind of exists. It's called voter registration. If you exist and are a citizen of the United States, you register to vote, and when you move, you have to register to vote in that area, and to prove that you live in that state or that town or city or whatever it is, so you can vote in a local or federal election, you have to provide things such as proof of residence, and most commonly, these are like your bills and whatnot. Like if you have an electric bill, like that's addressed to you at your home address, right? That's how you get your voter registration set up. But now, they're trying to set up an extra step where you will have to get a completely separate ID and then use that to get your voter registration, and then you can vote. It's very bizarre. We also already use our driver's licenses to vote as well. Yeah, like, it's not as insecure as Republicans try to make it out to be, they're really just trying to argue for a somewhat pointless, non-effective, like, nobody in America thinks the TSA is, like, necessary, right? Like, no one in America thinks the TSA is out there preventing terrorist attacks every day, and they're definitely doing more, I wouldn't say harm, but they're causing more inconvenience than they are doing any good, right? So the idea of implementing a policy that is about as effective at stopping any form of, like, voter fraud as the TSA is effective at stopping terrorism, it just seems surprising to me that so many Americans would be in favor of it, right? Like, all it does is just make it a bit harder to vote if you actually should be voting and can vote legally. And I think that is the entire goal of the Republicans, because they have just pushed forward the SAVE Act, basically demanding a new set of documents or a wider demand of documentation before you can get registered to vote. And there are a lot of worries that this might even make it impossible, mind you, for married women who have taken their husband's last name or their wife's last name, that this might make it impossible for them to vote. Republicans have denied this, but we should never take them at their word until we find out how this policy will actually be implemented. Now, there is yet to be any substantial debunking, as far as I know, of the claim that the Republicans successfully purged millions of votes or millions of registered voters off of the voter rolls in the weeks before the election, basically meaning that once they submitted their vote, it just wouldn't get counted. And they did this for exclusively Democrats, and particularly those who were Hispanic or non-white, right? Like, this was a big story a couple months ago that, like, millions of votes were purged off the voter rolls by the Republicans. So it's very possible they've already successfully, destroyed the integrity of our elections. This, like in the last election, now they're trying to cement that by ensuring that through sheer demographic ability to vote, they almost have the win in the bag because they make it so difficult to vote against Trump. Let's go ahead and see what the whole situation is with the SAVE Act.
On Thursday, the U.S. House passed a bill called the SAVE Act.
I cannot believe the Economic Times is using this fucking AI voice. That is depressing, bro. The TikTok AI voice. Bro. Come on. Come on.
Short for Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. It would require documentary proof of U.S. citizenship for anyone registering to vote in federal elections.
On this vote, the yeas are 220, the nays are 208. The bill is passed without objection. The motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Republicans say it's about preventing non-citizens from voting.
In the SAVE Act, we can ensure that only eligible Americans are registering to vote. Additionally, the SAVE Act is aligned with President Trump's recent executive order, preserving and protecting the integrity of America.
I have a feeling nuking the economy may have been part of the plan. Trump might not have been joking or lying or bullshitting when he said that nuking the economy and the market was part of the plan. Keep in mind what Steve Bannon said, that they like to flood the media and overwhelm it with too much to cover. Everything's focused on the state of the market right now. Meanwhile, there were like 4 stories that came up that have been released today about the SAVE Act. Like, a lot of, like, print media is talking about it, but most of the mainstream video-based media is focused on the market and what Trump's doing to that. They're distracted and not focusing on what could be the Republicans solidifying their next victory. If we see, like, a few 100,000 people voted against Trump in the next election, oh boy, is there going to be some conversation to be had. Because it's very possible this next election will not be a fair one. We'll have to wait and see, though.
American elections, which will help restore trust in American elections, enhance election administration, and make our elections secure. This legislation is just one step that we can take to ensure President Trump's executive order could not be undone. Americans deserve to have confidence in our elections.
Passed the SAVE Act today, as you know, and that ensures that you got to have identification. You have to prove your identity because only U.S. citizens should vote and decide U.S. elections. It's already in federal law, but there's no mechanism currently to ensure that that law is always followed. And this measure, the SAVE Act, will help make.
Yes, there is. There are actually several ways in which this is pursued. You can force a recount. You can force an investigation to see if there... Like, Trump tried to do this when he claimed voter fraud as why he lost. Like, he literally went in front of, as many courts as he could, arguing that as many votes as he needed to win were fraudulent, could not provide evidence of the case, and got laughed out of the court. If you can provide evidence and bring it to court, which Trump easily did dozens of times, and prove that votes were fraudulent, they'll be struck off. Like, they won't be counted. Like, there's a reason why there's months before the vote is certified, before the inauguration. Like, after the presidency, before the inauguration and the vote certification. There's time for these things to be figured out and to find out if some fuckery happened and the results were truly different.
Making sure that is true.
Democrats and voting rights groups say it could disenfranchise millions, especially people who are already legally registered.
What exactly would the SAVE Act do? It would create enormous burdens for every American citizen who seeks to register to vote. Let's dig into the details. As my Republican colleague...
And to be clear, it's not going to be impossible or anything. That's not what matters. It's that it's just a bit harder. And that's all it takes to massively reduce the amount of people who vote. It's not a matter of should, all right? I'm not saying people should not vote because of these laws. I'm saying that they will vote less because of these laws. And it's not because they're not legally allowed to vote. It's because of inconvenience. It's because it takes more time. People don't like doing things like going to the DMV and waiting in line to renew their license, for instance. Voting is a lot like that. Like, if you're not super locked in on politics and you're more the average American who's likely to just kind of sway Democrat maybe, you are not enthused to go out and vote. You don't really care that much to go out and vote. You don't think your vote matters that much. So if you find out it's gotten to be a bigger pain in the ass to register to vote, you're just not going to do it. Simple as that. And that's the Republicans' goal, is for more Americans to just think, not worth it. Who cares? And to just not do it. And the rest, if that voter roll purging thing is true, they can just purge the rest of the non-Trump voters through that method.
And friend admitted at the Rules Committee, under the SAVE Act, most Americans would be unable to register to vote using their real ID. Further, under the SAVE Act, almost 70 million American women will be unable to register to vote using their birth certificate simply because they changed their name upon marriage. The bill would disenfranchise survivors of domestic abuse who have changed their names for safety purposes, which is truly shocking. And the SAVE Act will...
What about people in witness protection?
Will also have a steep financial cost to American citizens because, yes, the SAVE Act does allow Americans to use their passports to register to vote. But half of all Americans do not have a passport. And a passport costs $130 plus additional fees. So the SAVE Act will cost American voters who do not have passports and choose to use them billions of dollars to secure them.
Now, to be clear, he means if they choose to use a passport, they would have to, it would cost them billions. They don't have to use a passport, but most don't. And to do that, if they wanted to go that route, it would cost a cumulative billions of dollars for Americans to do so. But a passport's not necessary. It's just one of the options. So yeah, most of these means are not necessarily free. They're somewhat low cost. I'm not making a case of like people can't do it. It's like, yeah, it's like a low level poll tax, essentially. The goal of things like this is to make it just inconvenient enough that less people vote, and statistically, like this is just a fact, statistically, less non-white people are likely to vote. And we all know that that's what the Republicans want.
Why it's controversial? Here's the thing. It's already illegal for non-citizens to vote in federal elections. Doing so can lead to felony charges and even deportation. And when it does happen, it's rare, and often by mistake. But the SAVE Act goes further. It would reject all voter registration applications that don't include one of these documents: a U.S. passport,
Oh yeah, this also does a lot to hurt trans people too. Yeah, that goes without saying, Princess Asor. But yeah, like if your like identification situation has marriage, name renaming, or like anything like that going on, I have no doubt they're going to find a way to use that against you to challenge your vote if they don't like who you voted for.
A birth certificate with a government photo ID, a military ID showing the birthplace, or a real ID license that clearly indicates citizenship, which most don't. Who gets affected? Republicans say current registered voters won't be affected unless they move, change their name, or re-register. That's when the new rules kick in. Voting rights groups argue that millions of Americans don't have quick access to a passport or birth certificate, especially the elderly, rural voters, and women whose names change after marriage. Even worse, most real ID compliant licenses don't show your birthplace or confirm citizenship, meaning even legal voters may be turned away. The politics behind it. This bill was a top priority for Donald Trump and House Republicans heading into the 2024 election.
This is one of their best moves to secure future power. This is how they stay in office. This is how they keep us from voting them out in the next election.
They say even one illegal vote undermines confidence in democracy. Democrats say this bill is a solution in search of a problem, and it will block thousands more from voting than it prevents from voting illegally. Take Michigan. Out of 5.7 million ballots in 2024, only 15 possible non-citizen votes were flagged. That's 0.0002%. The bill now heads to the Senate, where it faces an uphill battle. Republicans don't have the votes to overcome a Democratic filibuster, but the debate over voting and citizenship is far from over.
We need Cory Booker to get back on stage. Get those eye drops in. Get a few Monster Energies and a catheter this time and go for 48. Or no, what did he go for that? Was it 52? I think he went 52 hours. He needs to go for 80 hours this time. Go for the whole 100. Time for round 2. Oh, it was 25 hours. Yeah, he needs to go for 50 this time. How about that? He needs to go for the full 50. Big stack of Monster Energies on the podium and like a catheter, you know, like just ready to go, dude. Like have a few snacks set up as well. Bring up just like he can just read the entirety of the Lord of the Rings book franchise. That's what I would be doing if I was a senator right now. If I needed to filibuster and I was a senator, I would be like it began in a hole in the ground. There lived a hobbit. I would just start reading and just like we'd be 4 hours in and I'd be like we'd be in the Misty Mountains and Bilbo would be in the caves doing his riddle with Gollum. We finished the Hobbit and I'm like, all right guys, and now the Fellowship of the Ring. We eventually make it to the end of the Return of the King. Everyone's exhausted. They're like, this filibuster, it's finally over. We finished it. And I'm like, now how many of you have heard of the Silmarillion? And I pull out the Silmarillion, which has remained hidden up till this point. And I start that. I finally finished the Silmarillion. Everyone's tired, exhausted. No energy. They're like, finally, it's over. And I say, but did you know about the unfinished tales? Just all of Tolkien's works. I just start reading them. I finish all that. And then I say, now, I have a presentation I would like to show you. I roll out the little, like, projector screen. And I turn on a 30-hour-long Elder Scrolls lore video. That would be my filibuster method. The Republicans wouldn't get a damn thing done. Xander Hall for senator, am I right? Anyway. Listen, if you guys enjoyed this segment, if you found it entertaining, educational, or enjoyable in any way, then please consider leaving a like and a comment. It really does help a lot and means so much. Seriously, every thumbs up and every comment you guys leave in the description, or not in the description, down below, forces YouTube to push my content in the algorithm, whether you're watching this live or after the fact when this goes out on YouTube as its own thing. And of course, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications if you haven't already, so that YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload new videos. And of course, if you want to see more from me on other platforms, be sure to join my fan Discord if you haven't already. It's the main hub of my community and fan base, and it's really fun to hang out in. I hope you guys consider joining. I also host gaming events, call-in streams, watch parties, and movie nights there every single week. In fact, I'll be hosting one right after stream today. So I hope to see you guys there. And of course, don't forget, if you guys want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xander Hall merch through the Streamlabs link down below. Regardless of how you support me though, thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a good one.